Other items that we have are some bone fish hooks that were made by the natives and eventually got replaced by the steel flat blade hooks that the Europeans brought to trade. So some of these items began getting replaced by the trade goods that were brought in by the Europeans, because these are very time intensive for people to make, and they broke easily, whereas with the steel had much more longevity and it would keep a lot sharper. The arrowheads or points that are shown here are hand chipped and were used and then tied to the shaft with sinew or rawhide, and are extremely sharp. There's a couple of different types here. They had all different sizes up to, some of them would get up in the 5-inch range for spears and that as well. This is a little smaller point. They also made their own knives from different materials, and this is all hand chipped. They flake off little pieces of the stone and then eventually get the shape, and this is very sharp. This is a piece of a tree branch, and then it's wrapped with sinew on this one. The natives had been trading with shells and whatnot, because a lot of shells came from the coast through the native ways of trade and whatnot, and the coastal Indians would come over and meet with the inland natives and bring shells that would be traded. So the shells were found in the retreat, and they liked them extremely for decoration and whatnot. An example is this woolen dress that is made from traded blue stroud. It's a wool stroud fabric. It's very warm and light. And then these are cowrie shells that have been beaded on with some little seed beads for decoration. This is a pretty fancy dress of the day. And there's hours and hours of work on these, everything being hand stitched and whatnot, but very fancy. So this is one of the items that the natives liked, because they didn't have to tan and whatnot. They would get a bolt of cloth or a few yards of cloth and then make these individual different items, and any of the little pieces that were left over all went into things like garters and different little pouches that they could carry goods in and whatnot. Nothing was wasted. So. During the fur trade, the Europeans brought over flint and steel for starting fires, but prior to that, the natives were using a bow drill and a piece of wood, and they would rig the drill around the stick and get the arthritic fingers going here. I don't know whether I can bend this enough. It's probably dry now. This has to wrap around. Let me see if I can get it. Not going to happen. So they would take the bow drill, wrap the thong around the dowel or stick from a tree, and have a block of wood up in their hand so that they wouldn't burn their hand. And by going back and forth with the bow drill, that would rotate this stick, and they used a very dry piece of poplar or cottonwood or aspen or whatever they could find, and then just from friction this would start to smolder and create an ember, and then they could put some moss or whatever onto there and get a fire. This was very labor intensive, and they tried to keep a fire going and would carry ashes and hot coals from campsite to campsite, so they didn't have to redo this. And when we look at what the Europeans traded and with the flint and steel, then you'll see why they were able to get beaver pelts for the handiness of the flint and steel way of making fire, which could be done instantly anywhere.